I'm sorry. The weather has gone crazy out there. Is it okay if I use your phone?
How you doing? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you
Lovely to
too.
see you. Thanks for chatting with us.
No, thanks very much for taking the time to chat to me about the movie Conversation on your debut movie. I'm quite curious. What was it specifically about this one? I mean, because I know you've done quite a lot of short films previously, but what was it about this one that you thought, right now it's time to kind of take the dive and go with this one? Because I understand you wrote this very specifically for this project. I don't think you even really had that kind of an idea that you wanted to do a feature, and that this kind of came about by chance. No, I think you had about 4 or 5 different ideas, and this was the one that you went for. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had made a few short films, as you said, and we had traveled to Austin Film Festival with one of our short films, and it was one of like the first like large festival experiences that we'd had, and we absolutely loved it, of course. But we went and saw the film Waves by Trey Edward Schultz, which was his new film at the time, and sat back and listened to a talk by him. And he was talking about how he made a micro budget feature called Krisha. And so we were really inspired by that talk. We went home, we watched Krisha, we loved it. We loved the kind of DIY nature of it, how he starred in the movie himself, he got his family involved, he shot in his family home. And it suddenly felt like this thing that we thought was really far off for us. Hard to achieve. It was actually something that's potentially in our reach if we did it the right way and if we were really clever with how we did it. So this, we've always wanted to make a feature. That's kind of, everyone's dream when they set out and go to film school. And so we thought, oh, that's just something that's kind of unattainable for us for now, and it will be something that happens way in the future. But then after hearing that talk and looking at a few other filmmakers like Mike Flanagan, we went, oh, people actually do this. People raise their own money or they put their own money in, and they, can make a film that's actually super, super contained, but feels larger than it is. So that's what we set out to do. And that's why we tossed around a lot of different ideas in the beginning, because we knew from prior experience that the best thing to do is to keep the film small from a script stage, because as you go through, it's naturally just going to get bigger and bigger. Things are going to get added, and it's going to become a whole new beast. So if you start as small as possible, then you're going to have the best chance of actually practically being able to achieve it. So we thought, all right, we'll just set ourselves a challenge. 2 actors, 1 location. What can we come up with? We already knew the 2 actors that we wanted to work with, which made it really easy. Brendan Rock and Jordan Cowan. And so we literally just went from there, and it was like a writing exercise. So that's why there were so many different ideas at the start. And this one we just thought would be the most achievable and really fun.
Uh-huh. And you mentioned Brendan and Jordan. Is it true that you specifically wrote that with those 2 guys in mind? So I mean, most writers don't get that luxury, no, because they write a script, and then if they're lucky, they'll kind of get the actors that they want to go for. So did that make it easier in kind of the writing stage, Indiana, to kind of know exactly who these 2 people were going to be playing your characters that you were going to write from scratch?
100%. And I think it's one of those things where it can be really overwhelming if you don't have a particular seed of an idea to start with when you're starting out writing a script. And it can be really overwhelming. There's a million different ways it could go. But giving ourselves those constraints of a single location and, knowing exactly the 2 actors we wanted to work with. And we've got the dynamic that's already there of a younger woman and an older man. What ideas does that bring up? How's the audience going to feel if they're put in a room together? How can we play with that? All those things kind of gave me a launch pad for the script, somewhere to start from, and they gave me that seed. So that was really good, because you could also kind of play the movie in your mind and picture it really clearly with the 2 actors that we already knew really well from our last short film. So it certainly helped. And it also just took the pressure off of the casting
Yeah.
you know, part, because it's, you know, castings make or break in a film, and it can be really stressful, but we already knew we had these two brilliant actors, so it really helped, you know, pre-production
Yeah.
be much smoother.
The timing was kind of perfect because we actually, when we saw that Trey Edward Schultz film, when we flew back, we went straight into production on a short film that had Brendan and Jordan. So we were actually kind of throwing around the ideas of this script that Indy ended up writing while editing that short film. And it really came from, we were watching their performances and that coming together. And we kind of thought, oh, this would be exciting if we could expand on this same kind of production methodology and scale. So we were kind of freshly working with them. So we were kind of able just to pitch this idea at the end of that process while we're all, you know, in the routine of working together. So it was great.
And they were very, very happy, just kind of letting you write them into this script, and they were going to go for it, whatever you came up with.
Yeah, we were very, very lucky.
Yeah.
They were both very game to jump into anything, which was great.
And even Jordan has a particular tattoo that I knew she had from the previous short film that we made, and I thought, oh, that's a great tattoo. And then, you know, it just worked it into the script. So she was like, oh, but she wrote it, that's my tattoo. We're like, yeah, why not? Why not use it? Looks great. It looks great. We can work it into the story.
That's right.
So I mean, obviously, you came up with this very confined story in this very confined one location place with two actors. How did you come up with the kind of the scripts? Did you start from the end and work backwards, or did you kind of work from this location that you've got and then kind of did it form itself that way?
Definitely from the location, just
Right.
because I treated it like a writing exercise, and like I said before, you know, we've already kind of got this inbuilt dynamic between the two actors because of their age and gender, and you know what audiences automatically assume. So I thought, you know, we can really play with that and make that really interesting, but where can we set this? And it has to come from, you know, being producers on the film as well. We went, okay, it needs to be somewhere that's really practical to shoot in, something that we can hopefully build, because then we can really control the environment, control the lighting, and also get the most out of our shooting days, because studio shoots are just brilliant. You don't have to work against weather and angry neighbors and all that kind of stuff, like you have to do with on location shoots. So yeah, basically we used the brainstorming of the location to kind of be the seed of the idea for the story. And we tossed around all sorts of things, and talked about shooting in houses. And in the end, I thought, oh, you know, we wanted it to feel like a really contained claustrophobic environment, so that we can really lean into that single location feeling, and really work it to our advantage, so it doesn't feel like it's a budget constraint, but actually feels like it's pivotal to the story itself, and that we can really make it work for us on a low budget. So we thought, okay, something small, contained, but also large enough that we can keep it interesting for an entire feature-length movie. We watched a few single location films. There was that Ryan Reynolds one, Buried, is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's great.
You know,
Buried,
that's
that's
such
a
an
great film.
interesting,
Yeah.
such an interesting exercise, because you know, he's in a coffin, I think, for the whole movie. And you really don't think about, you don't get bored. It's just so
It's an amazing film.
such an amazing feat to do that. And we really thought, okay, how can we watched a few of those single location films and go, what works for us, what doesn't, and how do they keep it exciting, and borrowed some of those ideas. So we thought, okay, we wrote into the script, let's change the lighting here, because it's going to make the environment feel even more claustrophobic or unfamiliar or unsettling. And so we can kind of reuse the same rooms and environments, but make them feel like they're different as the film goes on, and kind of amp up the tension. So it really all actually stemmed from the location, and we picked that location because it was something that we could build, and it was something that was really claustrophobic and really adaptable for our film. So that's kind of where it all started from that seed, and then just like a writing exercise, how can we make this as creative as possible?
Which again, kind of going back to your first question, that in itself is kind of why we landed on this one out of the kind of 3 or 4 concepts, was because as those things, the importance of those elements became clear, going down the path of this idea of just, it naturally facilitated those kind of changes rather than us kind of having to force something in. It wanted the concept wanted things to be constantly shifting and evolving visually.
Yeah.
So landed on the most fun one.
And I mean, you mentioned that you've got to keep it really interesting, kind of really intriguing, which is a really a kind of a really, really hard thing to pull off in such a kind of close quarters film with just two people there. How was it all down in the script from the word go, or did you realize that you were going to have to change things once you got on set and you kind of the lighting and the storm, all the different things kind of came into action? Did you realize that you'd need to kind of switch things up a little bit, and did you maybe play with the actors a little bit, not let them in on as much details to keep them on their toes as well as much as the audience?
It's a bit of all of the above, wasn't it? There's a lot
Right.
of stuff written into the script. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of visual elements written into the script. I want to say maybe the second draft that Indianna did, we also started storyboarding at the same time. So because there's obviously such the visual element of using that space, it kind of we'd be going back and forth. So we'd spend a couple of days storyboarding a section, and sometimes that would influence the next draft. We'd change a few things, especially in kind of the second half of the film. And then we also did rehearsal right before starting shooting. So not a crazy amount changed once we were actually shooting, because it was just so fast. We really needed a good plan in place. But all the way in the lead up, for the months in the lead up, it was kind of a ever evolving thing, script wise, visually, working with Max Corkindale, our amazing DP, and the whole design team. And then that last stage right before we started shooting of rehearsal, we were very lucky to have rehearsal. It's something that's really hard to get on bigger films. So that was a great thing about the way that we were making it and knowing the two actors. And we got a lot of good stuff out of that, even though it was cut short because we had a COVID lockdown in Australia right as we were about to shoot. But it was just great to throw around those ideas, which is kind of like what storyboarding is. It's really like going over the intention, throwing around ideas in a safe environment without the cost pressures and the time pressures of actually being in production.
But
sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, like all films, it also things changed as we kind of entered each stage of production. And, especially when you get into the edit, you do lots of rewriting when you get into the edit and you go, oh, this didn't quite translate how we wanted it. And you can put in an insert of a particular, especially in this film, like an insert of some eyes or hands or whatever, and it suddenly changes the whole meaning of the scene. So we did a lot of playing around and massaging in the edit to fix some story problems that weren't coming across the way that we wanted them to in the script stage.
Just to be more confident in our decisions, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I loved the whole thing all the way through, but one scene that's really, really kind of pulled me in to the story was when we got to the game of bullshit, which was just fantastically written and fantastically acted. Was that difficult? Was that all on the page? And was that must have taken a lot of rehearsal to get that just right, because they're not just acting, but they're playing a game of bullshit at the same time, no?
Yeah, that's also my favorite scene too. Because it's, as we were saying before, usually things change quite dramatically from the script stage to the edit and the final film. It becomes a whole different beast each time, and you end up with something that's quite different to what you started out with. That's just the nature of filmmaking. But that scene is exactly as it was in the script. And it just was one of those things, because we have these two great actors. They also have lots of theatre experience. So they looked at the script and went, like we knew that they'd be able to nail it. And we did like essentially theatre rehearsals with them, where we had blocked out the room and, had a table and a pack of cards and had rehearsed it all out, and knew exactly what cards were going to play where. We made all of those notes early on, so that on the day we could essentially run it like a play and just absolutely chew through memory cards full of footage. Basically just run it like a play. And I think most days it was like we were getting through quite a rapid
by necessity,
shooting quite fast, getting through lots of pages. But that day we just absolutely blitzed through pages because it's such a long scene in the script. And they just played it like to theatre actors, and
Did
it worked out really well.
That whole scene's just in one day.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a full day for it. They just knew it. And yeah, thanks for bringing up that scene, because that's definitely our favorite scene. And it's hilariously, it's kind of the only scene in the edit that essentially the first cut was that. Everything else, it was a lot of, massaging, as is the process, but really we just put that together, and they're so good in it. We just went, I think that's probably it, and we really changed very little from that first cut to the end for that scene.
No, it just worked really well. The game of bullshit and kind of what they were sharing with each other just worked perfectly. It was brilliant. Yeah, so congratulations on that. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
thank
but they give me the wrap, so in a couple of minutes. So just to finish off, then obviously you've finished this film now, and it's going to be a great success, I'm sure, on Shudder. Having gone through this, like you said, you wanted to kind of homegrown production. Is that something that you'd like to jump straight into again, or are you going to go back to do another short or something like that, just to kind of have a bit of a break before going back into something like this big?
Definitely want to do another feature next. We'll just say that we are giving ourselves a little bit of a break in that we are just kind of throwing around. We definitely are excited by a couple of potential pathways and a couple of really exciting ideas that we want to develop. But we're going to give ourselves a bit of a life break for a sec, just to throw those around internally. But then we're super excited to get onto the next one. We're very hopeful we can jump straight into another one. That would be the dream.
We've been bitten by the feature bug now. Can't go back.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, listen, Josiah and Indianna, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best of luck with the film when it comes out on Shudder. And I hope to get to speak to you again sometime soon about the this next feature that you mentioned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. Take care of yourself and best of luck.
Who are you hiding from?